What the PNA, the Pacific North American pattern, what the PNA is looking at is high pressure. Is there high pressure off the west coast of the United States, or is there not? If there's not high pressure, then we get a negative PNA, and that essentially equates to the storm door is open. We can get storms coming into Northern California, typically a cooler and wetter pattern. When high pressure does build in and sit off the coast, we get positive PNA. This is typically a warmer and drier setup, and this is what we see, both the American model and the European model showing positive PNA through about January 12th. Then it starts to taper off a little bit, kind of go back to neutral, but we don't see a big flip into that negative PNA even as we work out towards January 20th. So that tells me this pattern is going to be fairly stagnant. There may be some opportunities for rain as we get towards the middle part of the month between about January 12th and January 20th, but there's not a real strong signal headed through the middle of the month that we are going to get a pretty wet pattern developing. These things change. It doesn't mean that's set in stone, but certainly the indicator as we look long range is that high pressure is going to have an impact on our weather pattern. And indeed, we already see it building in off the coast. As we go through Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it does build in. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to be at and above 60 degrees. And you see that there with that high pressure off the coast. So that storm door is closed. We will see likely a low pressure dropping in to the desert southwest. This could bring a chance to some showers to Southern California, but more importantly, it's going to be an offshore wind event as well. So we are likely going to see a stronger Santa Ana wind event shaping up Wednesday-ish, middle part of the week. So maybe Tuesday through Thursday, be looking at that, especially in Southern California. Although even here in Northern California, we will have some northerly winds, but we've had the rain and the snow, so we are not really all that concerned with fire weather. These are the three areas of highest concern. So areas like Santa Monica, Malibu, Calabasas, Thousand Oaks, Simi Valley, San Fernando, Santa Clarita. These are all areas that are going to be in that highest level of fire danger. We'll take a look at the winds, and I'll point out here, there is the Eaton fire, there is the Palisades fire. I've put the outlines there on the maps. The winds are in a little bit different of a spot than where they were last week, and they're not quite as strong, with much more of the focus, again, being western LA County into Ventura. But still, we're going to see very strong winds across the mountains, very strong winds down through Orange County and into San Diego County as well. These pink shades, 50+ miles per hour, and you see these strong winds very near that Palisades fire moving through Malibu, Simi Valley, Oxnard. This is prime time, though, for Santa Ana winds. December, January, February, each average about 5 Santa Ana wind events per month. What is not typical is how dry it is. Look, we've seen almost no rain down in Southern California this water year. It is the second driest start to a water year for downtown LA, with records going back to 1877. Palm Springs, the second driest since 1922. San Diego, the driest, with records going all the way back to 1850. Up here in Northern California, it's a very different story. Eureka, since 1886, this is the 12th wettest start to a water year. But look what happens after sunrise. Now those winds are much stronger. This is 8 o'clock on Monday. These pink shades here, right? The purple to pink shading, that's 50+ miles per hour. That's what we're seeing through the San Fernando Valley, through Ventura County as well. Right along the 101, the PCH going to be seeing some very strong gusts, and it just picks up as the day goes on Monday. Now the mountains are getting in on it too, down through Orange County, Santa Ana, seeing gusts of 40+ miles per hour. And look at this as well. Simi Valley 36, Oxnard 33, Malibu right on the coast about 12 at this particular location. But as soon as you work your way up into elevation just off the coast a little bit, that's when those winds are going to get much stronger. So another, again, very strong Santa Ana event all day Monday, starting early in the morning. By about 6, 7 o'clock, those winds really going to start to ramp up, continuing to ramp up through the afternoon on Monday. Overnight Tuesday, those winds remain strong and they remain offshore. So we're not going to see any overnight humidity recovery. Humidity values dropping pretty quickly. The winds won't be quite as strong through the kind of urban core of LA down through Long Beach. So that humidity is going to stay higher for a little longer. But by the time we get into the afternoon hours, look at this. Those winds strong through Monday afternoon, like what we talked about. Simi Valley, 11% humidity. Oxnard, 8%. Ventura, 10%. Downtown, down to 16%, just 7% Pasadena. If you have unpacked a go bag or you're thinking about packing a go bag, here are the 5 Ps from CAL FIRE. And I go over this a lot. if you heard this before, it's always good to refresh. The most important thing, so this is a numbered list, the most important thing is people. 1 bag per person in your household. Clothes, some non-perishable foods, the essentials need to go in each person's bag for each person in your house. If there's 5 people in your house, you need at least 5 go bags, right? And each person needs to be able to take their go bag with them to put it in the car so that you can leave quickly. Don't pack this tomorrow. Don't pack this on Tuesday. If you're down in Southern California, pack your go bag right now. Give yourself that time. This way, if a fire starts, you're not running around your house trying to collect your belongings and remembering the important things. It's better to do it ahead of time. The number 2, the second most important thing here, pets. At least 1 go bag for your pets in your household. Make sure they've got food. Make sure they got some toys. Make sure they've got the essentials, any medications for the pets. Make sure all that is in a go bag as well. If there's room in yours, it can go in your go bag, but you may need 1 more. So if there's 5 people in your house and you got a pet or 2, maybe you've got 6 go bags that need to go in the car. Number 3 is papers. These are important documents, insurance documents, birth certificates, passports, whatever it may be. Whatever documents that you may need to rebuild, don't leave them in a fireproof safe. Make sure they are in a go bag. If the safe is fireproof, the safe will still be around, but it's going to heat up inside, and the contents of that safe, that fireproof safe, may burn. We saw that in the Palisades fire. The fire was so hot, ripping through some of these residences, that even though they had fireproof safes in there with important documents, whatever it may be, passports, those just turned to ash because of how hot it got inside the safe. It just basically cooked inside of that fireproof safe. So don't leave it in your residence. Make sure you bring it with you. Throw the whole safe in the car if you have room and you need to, but make sure those documents are with you. Again, insurance documents, passports, social security cards, marriage licenses, whatever it may be. Make sure you've got it with you. Super important. Think of it this way. Any sort of documents that you may need to rebuild completely, unfortunately. That's a way to think about that in terms of papers. Number 4 is prescriptions. This is any sort of medication. Make sure you've got the medicine you need. Make sure your pets, your kids, your family members, make sure you've got all of the necessary medical devices, all the necessary medications. Make sure all that is in your go bags. You don't want to have to go back for it. But it is number 4, right? It is somewhat replaceable. In a short time frame, you should be able to get a new round of some of that medication. Number 5 is the least important thing. It's photos, but really it's anything sentimental, right? Look, it could be photos that you haven't digitized. Just take them out of the picture frames, throw them in a go bag. Could be little trinkets, little knickknacks. Again, it's replaceable items or maybe things that have a high sentimental value that you want to bring with you. But it should not take priority over anything above it. Make sure you have number 1 through 4. These are all the essentials. Make sure all of these things are with you. Make sure you've got a change of clothes. Make sure you got some non-perishable food for you. And then, of course, for the pets as well, make sure they got your food. Make sure you've got your important documents. Make sure you've got your medicine. If you still have some space in the go bag, that's when you can put the sentimental items in there. But make sure it's not going to slow you down getting out the door or take up extra space. The most important thing is you and your family members and your pets, that you all can get out and be safe. And if you've got the room for the extras, that's number 5. So just remember this, maybe screenshot it if you're watching on your phone. Remember these things when packing a go bag. And one more time, I will say, pack it now ahead of the fire danger. Okay, so winter storm warning in the Sierra continues now until 11 p.m. on Friday. And then we have that winter weather advisory on the eastern slope of the Sierra. So let's take a look at Futurecast. Here's that clearing in the valley Thursday evening. And we will start to see the eclipse happen, right around 8:30, 9 o'clock, just the very first bit of the moon moving into the Earth's shadow. We'll be able to see that because of the clear skies. But when we start talking about the maximum eclipse, which happens right around midnight, this is what Futurecast looks like, mostly cloudy skies. Now, that being said, sometimes the model makes the cloud cover look worse than what it actually is. So even though it's showing a lot of gray on the map, it may, in fact, be that the clouds are not that thick. They may be higher level clouds. We may have a somewhat decent view of the eclipse tonight. We'll just have to go out there and check. But I am seriously expecting a lot of cloud cover to return overnight, because this out here is our next system on the way. So we really only have a very small window. We'll give it 6 to 8 hours where we're going to be largely rain and snow free across Northern California, because look what happens by the time we get to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Snow starts to return to the high country and rain starts to overspread the rest of the valley in the Bay Area. So the morning commute on Friday looks pretty wet. It's also going to be very snowy in the high country, and snow is going to continue all day long on Friday in the Sierra. In the valley, rain becomes more scattered through the late morning into the afternoon, but I'm not going to say it's going to be dry. Again, it's just going to be scattered off and on rain in the valley Friday afternoon. But again, snow continues all day long on Friday. As we look at the weather pattern, a little system passing off to the north is what's going to knock our temperatures down as we head through the holiday weekend, keep us pretty seasonal. Not much of note through the weekend, but I do want to say, notice what happens after the weekend. High pressure starts to build in, and then it just kind of sits there. It doesn't really go anywhere. We might even have a little cutoff low just off the coast of California, and that could even lock in this heat and this high pressure over us for a longer period of time. So something that I'm watching pretty closely is the opportunity for our first real heat wave of the year, specifically by the time we get towards about Friday and Saturday of next week. I'll give it a 50-50 chance right now of hitting at least 100 degrees, but some of the models have been pretty consistently showing temps of about 101 or 102 to end the month of May and start the month of June. So just know, right as we get to the end of the month here, I am tracking that potential for our first triple-digit heat of the year. Again, specifically, it's about May 29th through June 1st. High temperatures near and above 100 degrees are looking possible. I'm not locking it in just yet, but certainly it's been on my radar, no pun intended, it's been on my radar for several days at this point. We're just going to keep watching it. It's too early to lock it in. It's too early to say this is for sure going to happen, but I will reiterate that from the forecast over the last few days and between all the different weather model runs, everything has been consistently showing that opportunity for triple-digit temperatures. It has not kind of faded away. So it just goes to show you that we are working closer and closer to summertime. Something else that tells us we're working closer and closer to summertime is the opportunity for tropical development in the Eastern Pacific. Has been a truly extraordinary July pattern for us here on the West Coast, but there are 107 million Americans that would love to have the weather that we are having because they've got high temperatures across the Mississippi River Valley, out through the Southern Plains, up into the Midwest. High temperatures 90 to 100 degrees, but with very high humidity, it is feeling like 103 to 110 degrees across parts of the Plains and Midwest through tomorrow afternoon. But meanwhile, here on the West Coast, Sacramento is having the coolest July since 2001, more than 20 years since we've had a July as cool as this. And this comes on the heels of last July, which was the hottest since 1990 and the third hottest July all time in Sacramento, with some isolated dry lightning through the Tahoe Basin, but scattered dry lightning from Plumas to Modoc counties along 395. And so as we look at Futurecast, you're going to notice some thunderstorms popping up in bigger numbers what we had today and what we've had of late. A lot near 395, but down here in Tahoe, we're going to have pop-up isolated thunderstorms through the afternoon and potentially some wrapping in through the overnight hours as well. There you go. It's 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, and there's some isolated thunderstorms near Tahoe. Then Friday afternoon, we're looking at widespread thunderstorms from Tahoe all the way up through the Northeast Plateau to Shasta, and some of these could be on the stronger side as well. So that is going to lead to some elevated fire danger, especially Thursday and Friday for those thunderstorms, because of course the lightning, particularly dry lightning, could start new fires. So be storm and fire ready, hike early and be off the peaks by noon to avoid the prime thunderstorm hours. Low to mid 80s as we head through Saturday. Bit warmer on Sunday, mid to upper 80s. Then we're very seasonal to start next week in the low 90s, but back in the upper 80s to start August.
Tickets are available right now, and Chris, you can drive your Lambo that fast, right? So.
Yeah. In my dreams, right? It's something else. The weather, I tell you what, I have to say, I'm excited about it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, because it has been something else these past few days.
Yeah, it really has. You might say we're shifting gears into Let's take a look at radar real quick. Yeah, still some thunderstorms out there. Temperature-wise, it's been very nice in the 80s, in the low 80s at that, across the valley. But we are watching some storms up along 89 and near Tahoe. Those will be winding down over the next couple hours, though. Futurecast coming up at 6:30. Back to seasonal on Tuesday, but then look at Wednesday, 5 degrees warmer than normal as we go into the mid to upper 90s, and it gets even warmer towards the end of the week. I do want to point something out, though. That average high temperature on Wednesday drops to 92 degrees. We've been at 93 for much of the last month. We finally are starting to see that average high temperature turn the other direction a little bit. August is the inflection point in our average high temperatures. In July, our average monthly high is 92.6. In August, it's barely cooler at 91.9, but nonetheless, it does mark the downturn. By September, we average 80s. By October, we average 70s. Can you smell the pumpkin spice just yet? Probably not. We're still well into the 90s as we head through the next 10 days. Low 90s Sunday and Monday, but then some upper 90s very close to the triple digits by the time we get to the end of this coming week. The pumpkin spice is going to have to wait. And 103 degrees was the high in Sacramento today. Hottest we've been so far this year. 100 in Stockton, 99 in Modesto, 100 in Auburn, 88 in South Lake Tahoe, 90 in Truckee. Temperatures across the valley 6 to 11 degrees above normal for the time of year. Tahoe was also about 10 degrees warmer than normal. So let's look back at this little stretch of heat. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Sacramento 3 days in a row in the triple digits. 100, 102, and then of course today 103. The heat peaked for most on Thursday. Stockton at 104, Modesto at 101, and Vacaville at 104 on Thursday. That all set or tied daily high temperature records. Sacramento's record high temperature on Thursday was 103. Didn't quite get there. The record high today was 106. So obviously, we didn't get there either. So no new records for Sacramento. But again, we did just have our hottest day of the year so far in the capital city. 78 right now in Sacramento, 81 in Elk Grove, 77 in Stockton, 84 in Modesto, 81 Colusa and Marysville, 68 in Truckee, 70 in South Lake Tahoe, and temperatures in Sacramento, Vacaville right now 3 to almost 5 degrees warmer than this time yesterday, and kind of a mixed bag down in the San Joaquin Valley. Some places a little cooler, some places a little warmer compared to 24 hours ago. I am still watching the picket fire over in Napa County, almost 4,000 acres. You see the perimeter of the fire there just to the northeast of Calistoga. This is still producing a lot of smoke this evening. There are some helicopters on the fire tonight, and of course a lot of firefighters on the ground. Air quality not as bad at this hour as it was last night, especially for places like Winters and Esparto. But that smoke is still going to come into the valley through the overnight hours. So as we get in towards midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you see all that smoke pouring into the valley right along Interstate 505 and then along I-5 in the central and upper parts of the Sacramento Valley. So Colusa County, Yolo County, potentially even Yuba City and Marysville, going to see some of that smoke through the overnight hours. And then tomorrow, during the day, actually, we may see some smoke push a little further into the valley as we get a little bit of a stronger Delta breeze, carrying some of that smoke just to the north of Sacramento. So another night to keep those windows closed and the AC on. A warm morning, 66 in Sacramento to start Saturday, about 62 in Stockton, 65 in Modesto, 77 in Placerville. Saturday afternoon will begin the slow downward trend in temperatures. I've got a lot of upper 90s, not quite as many triple digits for tomorrow. Sunday, mid to upper 90s. Monday, we're in those mid 90s. Tuesday in the mid 90s as well. And then we're back near seasonal on Wednesday in the lower 90s. That's because high pressure starting to scoop back across the desert southwest, pushing to the east, but that is going to bring a bunch of monsoonal moisture up into northern California through the weekend and the first half of next week. So some elevated fire danger this weekend due to widespread thunderstorms, especially on Sunday afternoon. But the good news is there should be some decent rainfall with some of these thunderstorms. Not all dry lightning. We'll actually have some rain to go with the thunderstorms. So weather impact alert continues for the heat, warm mornings, hot afternoons in the foothills, and then daily thunderstorm chances starting tomorrow in the Sierra. As we look at the next 10 days, temperatures are again slowly working their way back down towards seasonal. One more day with that weather impact alert. That'll continue through tomorrow. Again, warm mornings, hot afternoons, and then again, near seasonal by midweek.
Okay, so we're going to be looking forward to midweek and into next weekend where we get lows down in the 50s, huh?
Yeah, kind of back towards normal, maybe a little below normal, and certainly no more big warm-ups in the foreseeable future.
I like the sound of that.
Me too.
Okay, Brenden, thank you, sir.
Top of the hour. New at 9, we now have a tsunami warning for the North Coast. So from the international border in Southern California all the way up to about Cape Mendocino, it's a tsunami advisory. But then we have a small stretch here that's actually a tsunami warning. Again, it's from Cape Mendocino up to about Crescent City on the Oregon state line. Zoom in a little bit more there. So the area is in red right along the immediate coast from the northern edge of Cape Mendocino up the 101 through Eureka Eureka into Crescent City and the Oregon state line. That's where we've got that tsunami warning. And I was communicating with the National Tsunami Warning Center on the Slack page that they share with the broadcast Mets and other weather partners. And I asked them, why specifically the warning for this sliver of Northern California when the rest of the area is in an advisory? And they said it specifically has to do with Crescent City. They're a little bit concerned with the 2 to roughly 5 foot wave heights that we may see in Crescent City, and the fact that it will last for up to about 30 hours, 30 hours in Crescent City. So that's why we now have a tsunami warning in effect again from the northern edge of Cape Mendocino up 101 through Eureka and all the way to the Oregon state line there through Crescent City. You may have seen these before. These are called climate stripes or warming stripes. Each stripe represents 1 year starting back at 1850 to modern day. The darker the blue, the cooler the year, and the darker the red, the warmer the year. And the baseline that we're using is 1960 to 2010. What you notice is there's a lot of blue on one side and a lot more red on the other. Another way to visualize this is by putting it on an actual chart, and you'll notice that until about 1980 or so, we were never warmer than that 1960 to 2010 average. But since about 1980, almost every year has been warmer than the previous year. We can localize this to Sacramento as well, and the climate stripes tell a very similar story. A lot of blue on one side and a lot more red on the other. So we know that something is changing, and that something is carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. Since the start of the Industrial Revolution in the late 1800s, we have continuously been emitting carbon dioxide, more and more of it at an increasing rate. And that means our global average temperature is increasing with that CO2 as well, because carbon dioxide traps heat in the atmosphere, and it lasts in the atmosphere for a long time. And the levels of CO2 that we have today have been unseen in more than 1 million years. So we know that this is something that we are doing and not something that's occurring naturally. What this is doing is it's shifting our baselines. Our normal days are warmer than what they were 50 years ago, and much, much warmer than what they were 100 years ago. This shifting baseline is also allowing us to see more extreme heat and sometimes temperatures that would have been almost impossible to see without climate change. We can quantify this to Sacramento by looking at the number of summer days above average. In the last 50 years, we're seeing 2 additional weeks of above average temperatures today than what we would have seen about 1970. And a lot of that warming is occurring during the overnight hours. Our average low temperature in Sacramento is about 3 degrees warmer than what it was 50 years ago. So we know that things are getting warmer, and that is the point of these stripes. They're telling a story, and that story is one of change.